All right, all right. Good evening and welcome to True Love Movement Tuesdays. It's Brother Shaq
And Mama Fire.
here in WBOK, 12:30 a.m. Real Talk for Real Times family here in New Orleans. Good to be back again, 2 weeks in a row, Mama Fire.
I'm loving it.
Loving it too. True Love Movement Tuesdays here live on WBOK, 12:30 a.m. New Orleans. Of course, you can catch us on the web, www.wbok1230m.com, as well as the WBOK 1230m app, available in Google Play and in the App Store. And shout out to our Facebook Live family on the True Love Movement page. Simply like True Love Movement on Facebook, and you can see us live here in the studio. It's a beautiful day out there too, Mama Fire.
It's gorgeous.
And we get a chance to hang out with our folks on their way in as they're wrapping up their day.
Yes, I hope everybody had a real beautiful, productive, wonderful, constructive day.
Right on, Mama Fire. What about you? How was yours?
My day was good. It was good. It was beautiful and
Yeah.
constructive and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spent a little time outdoors today.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What about you,
And
brother?
that was nice. I can totally dig that. This is the kind of weather to work outside in, family, if you can. Definitely want to work outside.
I see you look a little sun-kissed.
I feel it too, man.
Energized.
Yeah, man. The melanin all charged up and what have
Popping
you.
pineal gland. All that.
That's right. So shout out to everybody who's on their way in, tuning in to us. New time slot, new show really, with same old seats, and it feels good to be here, Mama Fire,
It feels good.
particularly with you. And I know there's a lot that's going to be happening soon for folks who, we've been off the air for a while, so there's some catching up to be done.
Yeah.
And we got something that's coming up, Mama Fire.
Coming soon. We got Will Manifest 10.
10.
And we rocking the whole weekend, y'all.
It's a weekend this time.
And it's what people call Memorial Day weekend. It's the last weekend before the end of the week, the end of the month.
Okay.
And we're just gonna have a good time from May 24th, the 25th and 26th. We're just gonna, we're gonna have True Love Movement and Runaway Girl, the stage play.
I just want to thank you and welcome you for coming. My name is Larita Marie, and I'm the director of tonight's play.
I am Sunny Patterson and just got out of Runaway Girl, the stage play, supporting my dear sister Ayana. I'm so super proud. I can't say that enough. Just for the vulnerability, what comes with taking things from being a performer to a prayer former.
Hi, I'm Chandrika, Runaway Girl, the stage play. It was so much like the book. I loved it. I enjoyed the book as well as the play. It was a great show. I love you, Ayana. Thank you.
I bought the actual book that night, and I started reading it that night, and I tell you, I did not put it down until I finished reading it. Like, man, the next time I see this sister, I'm gonna bow down in reverence to her. It's a book that I believe that every male should read, and I'm talking about regardless of your color. Because what that book did for me is that it helped to add to my continued growth in the respect of the woman. And I can't wait to see this play.
So I'm working with the director, Loretta Marie, who is my sister. We will get her in here one of these Tuesdays
Yeah.
to just talk about, what we're going to do with Runaway Girl. The stage play is going to be better than it was last year.
Right.
It's going to get better and better and better and better. So, and then Saturday, of course, Brother Shaq, we are collaborating that time with Resolving Rape Culture Workshop.
That's right.
And you might want to talk a little bit about that, but that's on Saturday, May 25th.
Saturday in the daytime.
All day. And Resolving Rape Culture Workshop is a very important workshop.
Definitely.
And it's important if you're interested in resolving something as big as rape culture.
That's
You
right.
got to first start understanding rape culture.
We got the thing. That's right.
Yeah.
Right on.
And then that's in collaboration with the Birth Story Project. Sister Midwife Productions does the Birth Story Project once a month, but this one is the special Will Manifest edition. And that's happening at the same time. Well, from 11 to 3 on Saturday during the day.
That's right. Yeah, the workshop will run from about 9 to 4:30. So
Right. So they're going to be simultaneous for a while, but make a decision where you want to go that day, and definitely be a part of what we're doing at Tombra Life Center on May 25th, daytime, and then at night we're having the series of Serious Sisters.
Serious Sisters.
The hip hop edition.
Right on.
We're going to just an all women, black women, sister MC concert and show, and it's going to be held at the Embassy Studios. And that's going to be a nice show.
Yeah.
It's going to be you know what? Not nice. That's going to be a fabulous, amazing show. It's celebrating sisters, and then in true Will Manifest form on Sunday we're having our festival.
Right on.
And if you've ever been to a Will Manifest, it is so fun. It's fun, and it's you learn there. There's free community workshops. There's going to be some stuff for the children, and it's just going to be a beautiful day. Performances, DJing. It's all going to be at Taylor Park on that Sunday, May 26th from 12 to 6.
Right on.
So if you'd like to know more about Will Manifest, please stay tuned to True Love Movement page on Facebook as well as Instagram, because we're going to be sharing all of how to be in the know and in the loop for Will Manifest 10 the whole weekend.
Right on. We're going to put it out there, Mama Fire.
Yeah.
And the whole weekend this time, too.
Let's do it.
You know.
It's time to level up, Brother Shaq. This is our 10th
The
Will
10th
Manifest.
one. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us, but really
Yeah.
proud of you with that one. That was your concept, your idea.
Yeah, but
Way
you're
back.
my yes man. You're always.
Absolutely.
I'm like, Brother Shaq, I really want to see like all my sisters together in one space, 'cause they're so amazing. And it started
Right.
off as a concert. It started off like that. It was really powerful for the first 3, but then we wanted to expand it to include like community building, and
Right.
important for our people
Right.
specifically to learn things about building unity, building trust between our own community. It's a do for self movement, and so we
Right.
decided to level it up then, and from 4 to 9, and then 10 we leveled it up all the way.
All the way.
So if you ever, I mean, I don't know about any festivals that celebrate black women,
No, not like this.
right? And so Will Manifest, we got to support that. If we think that's live, that we should celebrate black women, then we should support Will Manifest.
That's right.
It's a grassroots do for self festival.
That's
and
right.
and who's gonna make it live? We will.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right on, Mama Fire. And shout out to you for yesterday on Earth Day. The Earth Day panel
That's good.
with you and Brother Belingo and Chef Ra.
Oh, that was really
Sure,
good.
right. That
Those
was-
young people, I promise you, they're so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they in their full passion about what people eat. And I think the name of the title of the panel was What's Eating You?
Okay.
Yeah, and so the panel was really powerful. I came from the perspective of emotional, behavioral, and mental health, like what we eat affecting those things. Talked about how, if you are experiencing some type of emotional, mental issue, eating raw foods actually does help. I mean, it doesn't cure it, of course. I mean, True Love Movement is focused on healing, but it can really help bring yourself into balance. Drinking plenty water, eating the right high vibrational foods. So it was a good panel.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
not always the connection that folks make with food related to sanity.
Yeah, I mean, we are not connected, mind, body, spirit. And we talk about it all the time, Brother Shag. The wellness is mind, body, spirit alignment.
That's
And
right.
so what you eat does impact your mind as well as spirit, and what you think impacts your body and your spirit, So mind, body, spirit alignment is all really one thing.
Right on.
It's a beautiful thing, too.
And you did that really well. There's some video footage. We'll put that out there
Yeah.
at some point too, just to let the people kind of catch a glimpse. Those who missed it can
Yeah.
see how it went down.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
I'm glad to be there and glad to be a part of that. Shout out to those folks. And today, we got a really big topic, Mama Fire.
Well,
I think so.
okay. So,
I think so.
Yeah.
It's something that we always hear. At least I know I've heard all my life. Folks are talking about, So what do you bring to the table? And I've been asked that question, in job situations or different kinds of business ventures, and I know we talk a lot about that. You know, what do you bring to the table? And, you know, hearing it frequently now, particularly here, lately here in New Orleans, I guess for a lot of reasons, number one probably could be because of the lack that we know that there is in terms of resources for our people.
Yeah.
You know, the lack of access, rather. It's not that our people lack resources, but we do lack some access.
Yeah, I think the way we think about resources as well.
Yeah,
know.
yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, please. We did a show some years ago about value. Remember that? Value and
remember.
worth.
Oh yeah,
You know, and
definitely.
people us talking to one another about our value and our worth, and how as black folks we are very well accultured to look at each other that way. You know, to look at each other and say, you know, what can I get out you? What is it that you bring to the table? You know, we think this is a very good question, a very good question for our folks, because it's all rooted in, you know, our productivity and consumption, and the way we're socialized. I also think, this has a whole lot to do with paternalism, and that whole idea. We'll dig into that. Also, and then, you know, competition, or the artificial competition that's there, with what we just mentioned about being valuable, being worth something, or worth less than something too. What you think about when you hear what do you bring to the table? I know you heard it.
Yeah.
What does that evoke in you? You know what I'm saying?
I don't like it. I never did like that phrase. It just, I don't know, something about it. It sounds like, like we were talking about earlier. It sounds like slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Like bringing something, serving something. You know, bringing it to the table. And I know how we deal with each other in colloquial terms and use like these little things to say to each other. But I think it's saying, what are you offering the situation? What are you offering to make something better?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I just don't like bringing
Right.
something to
No,
the
I know.
table.
Yeah.
So much so that I looked up table,
Okay.
and I was like, you know, what's the origin of table?
Right,
And
right.
actually, Wikipedia has something on there.
Come
about
on.
The origin of table, and of course, it wasn't indigenous.
Of course not.
You know,
'Cause that
it was Greek
divides
and
us.
Roman.
Right. Tables
You know?
divide.
I think about when you eat together. You
Mhm.
know, the table isn't the center
Right.
of the thing. It's like, I'm talking about when we think about maybe ancient ways of eating.
Uh-huh.
You know, that it's about community, it's about sharing
Yep.
a lot of the time, and so, you know, we all are bringing it all to the table,
Right,
or
right.
to the community space. And so I don't think that this is our way of talking about community being about what you bring to the table. It's, I don't know, I don't like the term.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't use it either. And I looked it up too. I didn't look up table. I was just looking up the phrase, trying to find out where does this phrase come from. And if in a Google search revealed what you just described about, you know, what is your contribution? How do you what is the benefit that you're bringing? That tends to be what it means, but I couldn't find the origin or the etymology of that phrase. And like you, I thought, you know, tables, and it depends on what we're talking about, a circular table, or we're talking about a square table, we're talking about a rectangular table. You know, there's the head of the table. You know what I mean? And what's that about in terms of the power part of it? You know,
That's true.
the power dynamic, and you know, many of our people talk about having a seat at the table. You know what I'm saying? They reference a seat at the table. So this proverbial table is obviously very, very symbolic of something that's important, where things are meeting or colliding, or something's happening. But yeah, I couldn't find out exactly where it came from, but it doesn't sound indigenous.
No, it doesn't sound like our people either.
You know, in many of our people indigenously, we all ate from like the same bowl or whatever. You know, there are many of the tribal things where there was just something set in the middle of the circle of folks, and everybody got someone prepared, and then everybody got some from the same bowl. So the idea of the table, and when we think about tables, the way tables divide people, you know what I'm saying? Like you sit across from somebody at the table, so there's something in between you and them. You know, so that would say if you're bringing something to the table, or you would have to bring something to the table, I guess, to keep somebody there. Or as a good brother, OG Ron Chisholm would say, if if you not at the table, you're probably on the menu. So so there's
I like that idea too.
Yeah.
Like expanding it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What's on the menu? Who's on the menu?
who's on the menu,
Yeah.
because it definitely speaks to something that's consumption based. You know, when you talk about the table and people are eating, they're consuming something. So the idea about what people are bringing to be consumed, you know, when we think about how we exist socially and how we are trying to consume, you know, all the things that we need and as many things as we can. That whole bringing to the table thing, it gets deep.
Yeah, I think too, we can look at it as the business table as
Uh-huh.
well. Like not so much a table where you eat from, but also like a table where you're making decisions and coming together, and the business table, like a
Sure.
boardroom or something of that nature. And everybody's got to bring their ideas or bring something to the table. But I think about my experience at the table. It's like I'm always the one to prepare things.
Right.
You know, I'm often don't have help in the kitchen. You know, and I'm not saying you, Brother Shaq, 'cause you always be trying to help us. I'm just saying, naturally, mamas out
Right.
there, aren't we the ones that bring food to the table? That
Right.
we make sure not only did we work and we went to the store to buy the food, but we also prepare the food, make sure it tastes
right.
good. We serve the food, make sure everybody's eating, and then clean the table afterwards. And you
That's
know what
right.
I'm saying? So it's like I don't like what you bring to the table, because at the end of the day, it's been me bringing it's been back mama bringing everything to the table.
That's right.
And so I'd like to talk about that as well.
I think we should. I think that's a great place to start too, about all that Black Mama has brought to the table routinely. I think yesterday, the young brother Bolingo Ashe, he was saying something about, as the sisters, the women in the community, and you've said it many times too, about the alchemist in the kitchen
Yes.
creating and
She
that,
creates life or death in
a
the
very
kitchen.
natural place. But yeah, what about Black Mama in bringing everything to the table?
Man, I remember when we were on a panel, and this was at Mosque number 46. This was a while ago. I think it was for a Kwanzaa event or something.
Okay.
And we were talking about bringing things to the table.
Hmm.
And I was saying that we are the table.
Right.
And that's hard because people sit things on us, and, we provide everything that we need in order for, as far as offering is concerned.
Right.
And so
Everything's
I
put on.
I think Black Mama is the table.
Wow.
I think she is the table. And that's hard when we talk about bringing something to the table, because I personally have not had the experience, except now in my healthier life. I have a beautiful, healthy life now, where I feel that I'm met with equity and I'm met with love and support. But it's always been me doing and me fixing and me, taking care of, me nurturing, and me giving. And so, what do you think about that as a Black man, or as somebody who isn't a Black woman?
Well, you got me right on not being a Black woman. And I've never been a Black woman, though I've come from a Black woman.
Yes, you have.
And so I couldn't pretend to begin to say I know what that's like, or I know what you mean. That's the truth. But I can say for sure that I can see the Black woman symbolically being the table, where everything gets put on.
Yes.
You set everything on the Black woman. So then tables would have to be strong in order to support all of that and accommodate. So accommodating. And then making sure folks are comfortable at the table. And you think about how we deal with tables. Sometimes people put their feet up on the table. They put their elbows on the table. They lean on the table. The
There's
table.
the head of the table, like you said
Yeah, there's a
earlier.
head of the table, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying the table itself isn't very well respected oftentimes.
Right.
The table is utility. So the table is about what we can do and
How we can use it.
how we can use it and utilize it, and to the degree of the size of the table, the shape of the table. That's deep. And then the head of the table, which
Yeah.
isn't usually Black Mama.
That's right. I remember firmly. And my dad was a beautiful man, but I remember firmly he sat at the head of the table. It did not matter if we were home, if we were out to eat, if we were anywhere, my dad sat at the head of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And that was important to him.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that points to some socialization, because obviously if you're sitting at the head of the table, there's something significant about that.
Power, you said.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely a power dynamic. But when you think about head and what head is, and what a head is, like physically, anatomically, the head. This is where all the thinking is happening. It's not sitting at the heart of the table.
Right.
Sitting at the head of the table.
Yeah.
And head denoting, authority kind of a thing. And the way we've been acculturated to authority and
Leadership.
leadership,
Yeah.
and then imposition. You know what I'm saying? And then the imposition, and it's a positional thing. So I think it is very deep, Mama Fire, when you put the black woman, symbolically as the table. I think that is, that's something that we all kind of pull up to her. That's a trip. Wow.
So, and a table is a thing.
And it's a thing.
It's an object.
There's no humanity in the table.
And if we, and we don't even have to go deeply into the black woman being the table, because that's just one aspect of it. But if we just take it to another level, what do we bring to the table? What are we offering to the black woman?
Right.
And a lot of the time it's not anything constructive or beautiful. A lot of time it's drama, it's pain, it's being utilized or used, the type of things that we bring to the table, quote unquote.
Definitely.
I still don't like the phrase
No.
at all, because there's a better way to describe our offering to the community, our offering to issue or challenge that we're trying to solve. Or, I think there's a more standard, clear way to say those things. And tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff. I'm not down with all that.
Well, I think so. Though I couldn't pinpoint the origins, I something just tells me this is a Eurocentric concept.
That's what it's all
even
about
the
to
whole,
be.
the
And that's
whole
what it makes
table
me
thing.
feel
You know
like.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm saying that our people, as we have tried to assimilate into dominant culture and we mimic dominant culture, I say, you're not really battle tested until you go into war with the white man or white woman, but particularly the white man that's in your mind.
In your mind, even in black women's minds.
Right.
You better believe that.
Definitely, we've all been socialized that way. So it isn't anything strange for us to mimic these things, but we don't always really think very deeply about where did this come from? Because we say it like we came up with it. We say it very naturally, and we say it colloquial, like you say, and everyone knows exactly what you mean when someone says, well, what are you bringing to the table? But I think the question is often posed because of our perceived lackful sort of conditions. One of the places outside of the boardroom that is often, I guess, the what are you bringing to the table that kind of comes up, maybe the living room or other parts of the house where someone is being asked. We listen to a lot of couples and families.
Yeah, we do.
A great deal, and sometimes, well, not sometimes, but oftentimes, a pretty hot topic is the equity in the relationship, or again, who's doing what and when and to what degree, and there's not always, but generally there's a power dynamic in there, because one person is convinced, or at least perceived to do a significant amount, and the other person is perceived
Do
to do
more than
less.
the other. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then it gets into something not so much inequitable. Yeah, it's inequitable, but it becomes a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, competition.
Which we know is a hallmark of capitalism. Because I've always thought of that table as really the capitalistic, in addition to the black woman, but the capitalistic enterprise.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
I see that for sure. And that would make sense as far as the black woman or just black people in general.
Yeah, right.
Because we were the capital.
We were, and in many cases,
Still are.
the
Right?
capital. We are the ones that generate the wealth. We don't get it, but we generate it for other people functionally. And so we have been assessed, and we assess each other based on that ability to be productive, or to generate wealth, or to generate revenue, or like when we was on that, on the auction block, kind of thing. You know, it was about, you know, looking at the physical features. For the men were, you know, strong and young, and the women had childbearing hips and all these kinds of things that would make us literally, and I do mean literally, more marketable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
the whole idea about being marketable and a market and what a market is and what happens at a market.
And then branding.
And then branding and how
Branding.
and how they talk about going from market to table. You know, talking about the productivity going, or the produce going from market right to your table.
Yeah, it's a trip.
It's a trip, yeah, because we've been I think we've been acculturated into this, and it's real slick, but we're doing it at this point to each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, come take this trip with us. You can join into the conversation by calling 504-260-9265. That's 504-260-9265. This is WBOK 1230 AM, the Solution Line.
That's right, Mama Fire.
Yeah.
The idea of bringing something to the table, many of our folks with pride will tell you, well, you know, I bring this, I do this, I do that, I got this, because, and that's being said with pride because there's an understanding that those kinds of people are more valuable than people who don't do that. They're more sought after, they're more desired, and I think that's the case certainly in a capitalistic society, in the dominant culture for sure. But I think also in our own homes and communities, you know, the people who have, you know, greater means tend to have more influence, tend to wield more power than the folks who have lesser means.
Right.
You know, and so then the competition thing kicks in because, you know, if I can produce more, then that would make me more desirable even.
Right.
You know, and how many times have we witnessed or experienced folks who are in very dire situations, but the person the person who may be financing everything may be sort of derelict, but because they're financing everything, their behavior is overlooked.
Yeah.
They're not held. I mean, you know what
I sure do.
What do you think about that in terms of how this puts us to this whole idea about what are you bringing to the table, and how, if you're able to produce certain things, because then too it's also becomes exploitative because we're functioning, particularly like in New Orleans where you got 53% of the cities in poverty. How many relationships or intimate partner relationships are rooted in what you can bring to the table?
All of them. It's because what we've seen as we worked with our people is that financial issues are the bane of Black people's existence. If we want to be healthy people, it's like we're always thinking about money, thinking about finances, thinking about resources, thinking about how we're going to do this or that.
Right.
Most, you know, I don't know any Black people that aren't thinking about these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in our relationship to money, you know, it's a real sick relationship, and can only be healed by really looking at it, and how you're impacted and affected by it. And this is something that I deal with, Brother Shag, and I'm turning it around now.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, my journey to healing has, you know, it's like I take one step, or I take many steps, and then I have to stop and look at what I have to learn now.
Right.
That it's not really over. It's never over. I'm always learning. And recently I've learned that I do have a poverty mentality when it comes to money.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes, you know, I'm always like, oh, do we have enough?
Right.
Oh, you know, and instead of enjoying what the abundance that's coming through,
Right.
it's always like, okay, I got this, now I need to save it, or now I need to, you know, make more money. And I, you know, it's kind of like I don't just trust the process of abundance and trust the abundance around me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm learning, and it's working.
Right.
And I think that's something we all need to do. A lot of, to me, the issue with bringing stuff to the table, and if we just want to talk about Black people right now, our people, is rooted in mistrust.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because you're asking, what are you bringing to the table? Not realizing if you're coming to the table, of course you're bringing things.
Right.
Of course you have things to bring. You have, all kind of, just knowing black people all have all kind of things to bring to the table.
Right.
But we're asking, what are you bringing? In inquisitive way, like, you need to think about what
Right.
you have to offer. And,
Right.
and maybe you're not bringing anything to the table.
Right.
It's rooted in mistrust. And our people have a whole bunch of issues surrounding trust.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
I think that's a very normal response to what has happened to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, long before we got here, about being, mistrustful of other folks and each other. But the idea, too, that what if I don't bring anything to the table? Am I welcome? Am I wanted?
But of course
Am I
you bring things
am I
to the
desired?
table.
Well, I'm saying this, of course we do, but I think there is some connection in how well a person is aware of their own
Of
abilities
the
and
things on the table,
contributions
definitely.
and able to articulate those in such a way because of what you described, the lackful situation where, again, that's been part of our experience. I mean, there's no history in America of the majority of black folks being wealthy. That's just never happened in America. So we do socially we all have a conditioning, a poverty mindset, if you will, that was given to us, that was imposed upon us. It isn't naturally who we are, but you are right. Our people are always preoccupied with money.
Mm-hmm.
But we're preoccupied with money because
Securing the bag.
there's so much lack, right? Chasing the paper.
Yeah.
There's so much lack, and I think there's a lot of fantasy involved in that too, because the fantasy is that and the fantasy definitely is the if I ever had enough blank resources, money, but if I ever had enough, maybe I would be okay. Maybe people would treat me more humanely. Maybe I could have a different kind of experience. Because we, as much as we want to just get the money, we do realize it is a tool of exchange, that there is benefit in us having it. There's benefit in us being perceived to have it too.
Yeah.
And so I think there is a real deep want for it because of the lack. And what we've been saying here for half a decade at this point, Mama Fire, on WBOK, on the True Love Movement Hour, is that of course our people have a very dysfunctional relationship with money.
Yeah.
Given the fact that we were once bought with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think during that time the understanding of the perception became that the power in this capitalist society with money has to do with what you can purchase or what you can buy, that there's power in buying, because you think about the kind of power that existed where people are buying and selling human beings. They are buying and selling human beings and splitting up families at will or whatever they want to do because they've got money. So it would seem, I guess, when you're on the other side of that all you really need is some money, and you can change your whole reality.
Mm-hmm.
You could buy stuff too, and you could be the shot caller. You could do all of those kinds of things.
Money is power. Money
Yeah.
equals power. Yeah.
In this
Okay.
capitalist society, definitely.
Yeah. And when do we talk on True Love Movement all the time about divesting, and about black sin and all these things, and when do we make that decision? When do we see that money makes us sick in a lot of ways, especially the way that we view it.
Mhm.
That, of course, it's just like you said, an energy exchange, truly, and it's a piece of paper, and it's printed at will, and it's all these things. It's not even backed up for real by gold or anything like that,
Right.
anything of value. And so when do we say, I have this and you have that, let's exchange, let's barter, let's, make a decision. And I know that seems so far away from now, but I think the way things are going, with the expense of everything going up, and, food stamps maybe being discontinued, and Section 8 and all these things, that, we have to learn how to trust one another and pool our resources
That's
together.
right. That's right.
And a lot of the time our resources it's not money.
No.
You know, it's the ability to be able to take care of ourselves. So I think about our communal living situation, you know, and if we were talking about bringing stuff to the table, it may seem on the outside that we are helping someone to live, but really what we're doing is supporting someone to get on their feet, who is also helping to support us in ways that may not be monetary, you know, may not be money, it may not be financial, but it could be being home with the children when we aren't there. It could be cleaning certain areas or doing certain things, and we got to learn how to value that, you know, value that as what someone is quote unquote bringing to the table.
Right. Well, what you just described didn't seem very far-fetched, because in terms of the trading, because before we were, you know, infected and affected, you know, by the dominant culture, you know, that's what we did. That was the normal way of being, a normal way of life. That was what community was. You know, the whole idea of the monetary system is a trip, because it's a hoax. Like you said, it's not backed up by anything, but it's all symbolic. I mean, and when you think about it, it really is a head trip, because you'll take something that is worth something to someone and give them a symbol of that worth. In exchange for that, give them a symbol of it and say this represents that, but it isn't that, but it represents that. I mean, that's a sleight of hand if ever I saw one anyway. So again, that whole idea of a monetary system, the way that we've experienced it, is not, again, it's not indigenous to who we are as a people, for sure, because we actually did do you know, bartering and trading, and that isn't lesser than, that makes sense. Like, that's very logical, because and everyone has what they need, because everyone produces something, and everybody produces what we collectively need.
That's right.
That's not a new age concept. That is where we started. You know what I mean?
Ancient.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's
ancient,
normal.
Indigenous. And you know, I love where my children go to school, because the leader of that school, she came up with a cowrie concept. And
Cowrie
so,
shell.
yeah, cowrie shell. So they earn cowries, and like each cowrie is like 25 cents, and they earn it by cleaning and doing things around the school. And they're able to buy from the store. There's a store, and they're able to use their cowries to buy. But just imagine if these children grew up and they all had several businesses, and they decided they would exchange in that way.
Right.
You know, it's a beautiful concept and a good way to start thinking about, you know, what Blacksit can look like for us when we decide how the Black nation will take care of itself.
You mentioned Blacksit a couple of times on this show, and I know on some previous shows, and we actually had 2 shows some years back about Blacksit, but just a little bit of a literacy moment for our folks who maybe aren't, you know, regular listeners to True Love Movement, or they may be new to the show or what have you. What is Blacksit?
Well, it's a terminology that we really, we didn't make up, but we utilized.
Right.
And it started from some type of blog that somebody wrote, talking about, you know, Britain wants to exit from the United Nations or something like that. Please forgive me.
Right, that ain't our thing.
Right. We're not thinking
think
about
it's the
Britain so
union or
much.
something
The
like that.
union,
I don't know.
yeah, something like that.
Oh, the EU, that's what it is.
EU.
EU.
And so it's happening, and there's a lot of stuff on the news about it. But there was some kind of blog that people were saying, if we exited, what would we take? And then they made it really light and funny. And we were like, when we read it, we were like, this is not funny. This is something that we should consider and actually be moving towards, is divesting completely from what we know as the American government and creating our own nation.
Right.
Why not? You know,
Right.
and why can't we think of that as a real thing? Why can't we think about developing that and taking our time and maybe handing an understanding of it to our children, you know, to continue the idea of it. And so when they coined it Blacksit, and we've just been using it ever since. It's like Black people exiting from what we know as the heavy hand of oppression here in the United States.
Right on. That's good. I just wanted you to catch our folks up to speed about blacks, because we talk about it all the time.
Yeah, we talk about it on air, off air, and you know, the truth of the matter is, are making plans for it.
Absolutely.
And I think when we make a decision to homeschool our children and put our children in private black-led schools with black-led curriculums and these kind of things, we are divesting.
That's right.
In you know, some of the systems, as many systems as we can.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, I think that with all the different systems and institutions that are, in fact, feet of oppression on our people, I wonder if it seems overwhelming to even slide away from that table.
Ooh, it's very overwhelming,
You know.
but it's doable.
Okay.
That's the thing. The thing is that I think first you have to realize that it's possible
Mhm.
that we could back away from the table, that there is no table,
Right.
kind of like there is no box.
Right.
You know, like there's a table because they said it's a table and you're supposed to bring stuff to it, you
Mhm.
know? What about seeing things as they actually are and talking
Right.
about things as they actually are? Our people, our power, our abilities, what's possible. You
Mhm.
know, I think visioning, I think that's where we are. You talk about where we are as a people, it's just awareness. And part of where we are too is a visioning process
Yes.
into the future of us.
Right.
Because if we continue going the way we are, you know, making like little small baby steps, if any steps, if not
Right.
taking steps backwards,
Right.
and kind of standing still, that divesting is possible, is even
Mhm.
possible. Then thinking about what it would look like.
That's right.
What would you do? What would your family offer?
Mhm.
You know, what would we offer to the Black nation? What would we
Right.
offer to each other?
Right.
And that's what I like. You know, you like to be in history, and I like to be in the future.
And we meet together in the present.
Yes, we
because
do.
we recognize that is the bridge between the two.
Yep.
And you know, with regard to Afrofuturism, which I love that you really inspired me to think in terms of what's next and what's possible. I do see us asking these questions now, like asking these questions of ourselves. Like we're working to build some kind of a collective analysis that helps us to you know, really think and feel our way through something that is seemingly new, but I think really we're just getting back to ourselves.
Yes.
This is what getting our humanity or getting reacquainted to our humanity looks like and feels like. And it too is a messy kind of process. It's not neat and quote unquote professional looking, and you know, it's
may not necessarily be safe.
it may not even be safe, but you know,
Come on.
I can say this. I mean, this is certainly not safe.
Not safe at all.
This
Where
is-
do you feel safe?
Right now, you know, I've asked, you know, thousands of black folks that, you know, where do you feel safe? And the most I'll get is at home occasionally, but not everybody, because not
Right.
everybody feels safe at home.
That's very true.
You know, some folks feel safe with their family, but not everybody feels safe with their family. You know, what we've concluded is that, you know, black folks generally don't feel safe nowhere. You know,
Mhm. Usually, I think in a well-adjusted, quote-unquote, normal black person, between the ages of 21 and 28 is a good time to do self-evaluation. But a lot of the times we kind of we're moving too fast, and by the time we're 21, we're somebody's mama or daddy. You know, we miss that self-exploration and the self-evaluation place and time. And so we skip that part, or we try to skip that part.
right?
And as adults, when we see ourselves not functioning well, or we see ourselves not having good, healthy relationships, we see ourselves not being able to catch dreams and goals and make plans for ourselves, we have to go back and get it. Brother Shaq, we do have to go back and identify who we really are and evaluate what resources that we offer to ourselves and potentially to each other.
hmm
You all right?
I'm great.
Yeah.
I think the whole resource question
Yeah.
is a deep one, and I don't, you know, it's unfortunate we don't have some power on this electricity right now on this, but I would love to look up in the etymology of that word source,
Mm,
you know, and when we think about resource, because we know that means doing it again.
that's right.
And so, like the word source and maybe whatever the dictionary says, just as a starting point about the word source, and then how we are, in fact, resources, that would mean that we're doing something. Again, that means it's already been done, and whatever our offering is going to be consistent with that of a resource. And I think that could be a different way of thinking, particularly like when folks think about source, and some folks think about source as the universe, or as a God, or a deity, or something.
Like the originator, or the original
The
place.
emanator,
Yeah.
So the source of something is where something else emanates from. Now, in order for us to do that, to be able to assess ourselves, we would have to know who we are. Like, we would have to know the truth about who we are. And for our people, that there's a lot of work in that. As folks who have been disenfranchised and dehumanized, we really don't know, family, who we are without the imposition of racism. Like, we don't even know who we are. We've not had that experience in America. So we don't have something to go back to in America. We visualize, we try to remember, we theorize and fantasize and a lot of things about who we were before this situation, but we're not as connected to that, deliberately so. And so I think there's a lot of personal interrogation that goes into us being able to understand who we are before we can know what we can possibly bring to the table, so to speak. And then what is it, if the table is our community, which, fondly, many of us think of the table that way, then, what exactly is our contribution? What exactly is our individual contribution? How does that work with the whole, the collective? And then how did we determine that this, in fact, was the thing or the things that was needed to enrich, the lives of the collective of us modified?
That's right. Those are very, very deep questions.
Yeah.
And they all start with us. All start with identifying, yeah.
Do you think that series of questions that you even identified as deeper questions, because they weren't the kinds of a lot of times people like questions that are like very straight so that they can offer an idealized answer. An idealized answer, like they want to say what they think they should say.
Yeah.
And wherever they got that from, whatever they think they should say. But a real answer on that, like, because this idea that someone has to tell us what to do, someone outside of ourselves would have to tell us about who we are, that's insane. Because no one could possibly know you better than you, because you're there with you 24 hours a day, and you have been for your whole life.
Yeah.
So if you don't know about you, then what has happened? Not what's wrong, but what has happened to disconnect you from you? That would make you potentially dangerous, because you're just out here willy-nilly. And you certainly wouldn't be aware of whatever your contributions are and how those contributions fit within the whole of the table. And therefore wouldn't be positioned to answer that question, which means then why are you alive? That would be the next part of it. If you're here, because see, what I've come to learn is that people who don't know why they're here, and people who don't know what their contribution is, they are the consumers. They are those who they come to the table to consume the other people. That's why their question is, what are you bringing to the table? Because they're looking at what they want out of the deal, and they would like to be as close to the head of the table as possible. That way they can call the shot. Because remember, this is a power dynamic. And so I would offer that, or ask that question from that vantage point. What is your contribution? We talk about community work and movements and groups and institutions and organizations a lot. And we know that there are people who hide inside of those. They're not really doing anything, but they're hiding inside of those things. And they're the ones that are usually asking the loudest about who's bringing what to the table. because they're aware of what's lackful, but they're not filling in any gaps. They're not quite sure about what they could offer, or they're playing in the role, pseudo role of the oppressor, where they're just extracting from those around the table what it is that they need. That's why that whole team philosophy is so important, because it creates a dynamic that we're all in this together, but somehow we don't all benefit the same. So it sets it up to where, the team wins, yay! But, the team loses, that nobody feels good about that, but whoever owns the team, they don't seem to suffer as much, which is very different than I am because we are. That means you're totally engaged in what you're doing, and you're understanding how what you're doing in the micro impacts the macro, and what the turnout, what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah. And we've taken the time to do that work, Brother Shaq, both you and I. And I think that's the reason why we're able to view things, the macro, so much different than we have been taught to.
Right.
We've been taught to obey. We've
And
been taught to
comply.
consume.
Right.
Been taught to not think too deeply about anything.
Right.
Just follow the American dream and you'll be fine. That's what we were taught. And even subtly by our parents, we were taught by media, by TV, by movies, by commercials. We were taught those things, but we were able to do the work, the self-work, the deep dive for ourselves, and then be able to really see outside of ourselves, like, oh, now we understand. And it ain't about being woke or conscious. It's about doing the work, and your eyes are naturally, because your mind is going to become clearer. The things that you see is going to be like, oh, that's that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's that BS.
Right.
And it was a natural progression, and that's why it's important for us to do the self-evaluation, to heal. To go through the process of healing. And listen, I've worked with some sisters, and they get that stuff and go to moving. They see, they start tapping into things like universal kind of things, and they call me or they text me and be like, "I'm fine, guess what?"
Right.
And I'll be like, "What, sis?" And they break it down, and I say, "Okay, yeah, it's because you're looking deeply. Things are starting to change on the outside of you. They're changing on the inside of you, and the universe is responding to that." And so it's like a beautiful blossoming flower. It just opens up, and then you can see your own power. Because this conversation is just about power.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a resource. It's a resource.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like it too, Mafia. I think we could certainly do something with that. And the other thing I was thinking too about what people are bringing to the table, or what we're bringing to the table, is because you mentioned about being conscious, or being woke, and stuff that people is,
We can toss that out
I know
of
that.
Black Stick.
Yeah, for
Of
real.
that language for each other and with each other.
Because what I think it is, what I've seen, it's had many different iterations, over decades.
Yeah, Hotep. That's another one.
Right, but it also brings up this idea of intellectualism, where I know something you don't, so I'm smarter than you, so I'm going to beat you up with it because you're dumb. You don't know what I know.
You don't know that such and such and so and so. Wait a minute, there was a time when you didn't know.
Right, and now, the only reason I want to spend just a few minutes on it, A, because we have it, but B,
We sure do.
I think it's important that that's also brought into the conversation and brought directly to the table, because that is only a symptom of something. That isn't the something. That is a symptom of, I really, really don't like myself. That's a symptom of I really, really don't think very much of myself or other Black people. When you hear our people doing that, and I've encountered a great many folk over the years, decades, who learned some things and then abused other people of what they had learned because the other people didn't know it. And so either they did that, or they became some kind of a guru where they knew everything, and then they fostered codependent relationships with other folks so that they could feel better about themselves. Neither of those things are productive at the table, but the table seems to be a good resting place or a stopping point for, or a gathering point for that, because it makes it's a powerful thing. It feels powerful. It feels good to know something, particularly when you're presumed to be ignorant or illiterate or dumb or not very aware. And so when you come to know something, that's how come, the folks who read a book and suddenly become enlightened become very dangerous kind of folk. And just like the same time, and it's not just on the philosophical tip, it's also on the religious tip. Like we could talk about how someone may, find their way into a church on a particular Sunday, and then Monday, everyone else is a heathen, and everyone else is, going to hell, and and it's like, but just Friday they were right there, and again, no judgment, because it's like, I think we're searching for our way out of this thing, and we think that it's obviously there's something we don't know, but the intellectual part of it, that's not the only, it's not the only, the cognitive part of it isn't the only intelligence. There's a lot of emotional intelligence in terms of, what's been arrested in our development, that also will kind of keep us in this place, keep us going to the table for that, trying to find that somewhere about the fire. I want to add that.
Yeah, that's a good ad. I think all of it is a good ad. I think what I saw last night at the panel discussion, and shout out to Delise, who helped Madeira come up with this beautiful fundraiser for the garden recycling project that they're doing in schools. And so shout out to those sisters, and thank you for inviting me to the panel discussion. But I felt like, this was the community, or just a little part of the community, and the panel discussion was a lot like preachy, a little preachy, like, you need to do this and you need to do that.
Right.
And the thing about it is, I think our people respond to when we say how far we've come.
Sure.
And a sister once told me, this was a while ago, a sister once said, sis, you always bringing up the past, you always talking about your past. Ain't it time to just like let that go? And the thing about it is that this is the work that I do. For one, this is the healing work that I do. And at the end of the day, I am not healing anyone.
Right.
I am assisting and facilitating the healing process by saying, this is where I used to be. And it's not, it's just saying, like, in general, not you are where I used to be, but being transparent about the story, being transparent about where I used to be, and understanding and keeping that in my head, and not getting all bucked up because now I'm this guru of self-love, and now it's important for me to stay grounded in the truth of the change, of being able to turn it around, and then understanding where I came from.
That's right.
Sankofa. It's the history, present is important, but also the future. And this is the thing that helps our people understand. That's why it was important for me to be like, we're talking about food, but there was a time in my life where I didn't eat the way I did.
Right.
And I also suffered from asthma symptoms and overweight and, breathing heavy and being sick, just plain sick, having mucus and all these different things. And decided that I needed to change something about myself. Went through the hard work of changing. Because let me tell you something. Change is constant. But changing this type of stuff that you have been born and raised on, is not easy. Right. It's not easy at all. And so just saying, brother and sister, I don't have nothing special that you don't have.
That's right.
Right? We all got it. And so, and can nothing stop a black woman or a black man when they choose to make a change?
That's right.
Ain't nothing gonna stop you at that point. So I think that transparency is important, Brother Shaq, and that's why I always say, like, listen, I remember that, or I did that, I said these things, and so that means when people come, they're telling stories about being, woke, and you don't know this, and I read this book, and you are forgetting something. Right. You are forgetting your change, and that if you tell people about what used to happen, they may be able to identify with that.
That's right.
you know, and in a loving way. Not like I was a heathen back in the day. You know, we don't have to do that for our people. We're
Right.
all on a journey. And so maybe we can help, like, be the catalyst to the change.
Well, you know, it made me think about the way I do that is, you know, like my briefcase, I carry around my psychological evaluation
You sure
from like
do.
1978, 79.
Man, you
something
pull
like
it
that.
out.
And I said, this is a psychological evaluation. This is me. I didn't say this wasn't me. Like, this is me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that really, you know, helps keep me grounded. But what essentially it says is that, you know, in many respects, you know, you are who you are. And so, you know, that's one of the things I do. And the other thing I'll do, I was thinking about it yesterday when they were talking about the food. I was thinking, man, I remember speaking of the table, man, I remember I used to have hot sausage, French with heavy mayonnaise, cheese, grilled onions, extra pickles, you know, and they have two patties like that, two hamburgers
Eesh.
with ham all the way across, ham on one side and then roast beef. I mean, it was the
Oh, my
heaviest
goodness.
thing. And I would eat that like
That's what you call it.
daily.
That's what you call
Heart
it.
attack.
Wow. You say it was ignorant.
It was ignorant, man, and it was my own little special way. And I would have that was back at Jeans, you know, some 25, 30 years ago. But you know, that was a thing, and I'd eat that after I had been drinking all day and then all night, and then I go to sleep.
Come on, brother Shay. Drinking, you mean drinking.
Not cold.
You mean
drink.
I've been drinking. That guy?
Yeah,
Oh,
like
okay.
this was like I did this for days, and at the time, I really thought that I was living a good life. I mean, I really thought because I had the means to do it, the
That's
money
right.
wasn't an issue, and I really thought that was me loving myself. But I tell you, I didn't feel great.
Right.
But you know, I thought, you know, I'm doing it well, I'm doing it right. And I thought that for a long time until, you know, also I would have thought that I'm loving myself. You know what I'm saying? I really
Yeah.
would have thought that this is me loving myself. Like I eat good, like I eat whatever I want. Or I'd have a big old steak and go by Nita's and have a big old steak and grits and hash browns and eggs and some other thing, you know, after a long night. Like I really did think that was living. You know, it was
Yeah.
good living. And I was killing myself. But I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And so over time, you know, as I started removing certain things, I was like, man, I feel better. Don't talk about when I was smoking. Man, I felt so old as a teenager smoking cigarettes. Oh man, I felt so old. And like it was such a treat to feel young again. And I was like, man, I don't ever want to stop. Like this is great. but the way we abuse our bodies, abuse our minds, not knowing.
Yeah.
Not knowing. And then we have all these other problems that we don't connect to that.
Right.
So then to learn that what I put into my body will affect the rest of my experience, that's a powerful thing because I actually can control that.
Yeah.
I can control what happens with my fork.
Yes, you can.
I
Yeah.
can actually control that. So now I'm not being victimized. So the real thing, I think, the question is in terms of what are you bringing to the table is a sincere ask of yourself. Like, really, like, who am I really?
Yeah.
You know, like, why am I alive? What is my purpose here? Why am I alive? And what will it have mattered once I am gone? What will it have mattered while I was here? You know, like those are real questions that we should be, at least I think, and I do personally, you know, ask on a daily of
Oh, yeah.
myself. Like that's the focus. That keeps me, you know, grounded. And then plus this, you know, having journeyed from some places. A brother
That's
said today,
important.
you'll like this. A brother said he got it. He was like, journey. This is my journey.
Yes,
he was holding up
document
his
your
journal.
journey, baby.
He said, "This is my journey." I was like, "Yes, brother, this is it. We've been
Ding,
talking
ding,
about
ding,
this
ding.
now." And I said, "How beautiful is it?" That's just an aside because you know there's so many beautiful stories that never get told because they're private. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But
So many beautiful stories.
but I guess that's where we can have a perspective that isn't so dismal, isn't so hopeless, isn't so just doom and gloom, because we actually are seeing the transformation as it's happening in real time, and how that is impacting other folk. You were talking about how someone said, and I've heard it too, like you're shaping what's happening inside of my family. Like
Yes.
just our work together is, and that's not just a beautiful compliment, but that is a testament to being in alignment.
Oh yeah.
That's when you're bringing
Mind, body,
something to the
spirit,
table.
and mind. Come on. Yeah, and the table is figurative, but it's also very literal.
Very.
When we talk about mamas and babas too, like what we're actually bringing to your table at home. Like
Mhm.
what are you sitting around the table together? Are you having community time? Then what are you eating? Like what are you bringing to your children to eat? And I know Brother Shecky was saying, we can control what's on our fork, we can control what's on our plate, but we can't forget that some people, or our people, kind of think they can't afford to eat healthily, and maybe they're in a food desert where there isn't any healthy foods
Definitely.
to eat. You have to go to Dollar General because there are no other stores around there, and it's all heavily processed, full of sugar, full of salt, full of preservatives, and all these kind of things that end up killing us. And that's when Ubuntu comes into effect. Like, who in the neighborhood has a car? Who in the neighborhood has a vehicle to be able to pitch in and go to farmers markets, or go to our sisters who have gardens, our sisters and brothers who have gardens, go to areas where people are selling fresh produce and these kind of
Right.
things. And you don't know what you don't know. That's what people say all the time. You
True.
don't know what you don't know. But understand, being able to read labels. It took me a long time to read labels. I was just so brand loyal. I would walk into the store and just pick up what my mama would buy.
Right.
That's what my mama taught me. That's the things that you buy. You buy Kool-Aid, and you buy margarine,
Right.
and you buy, and I was growing and actually like becoming understanding about having to love myself and heal my body because I was just full of mucus. And then as an asthmatic, being full of mucus is deadly.
Ooh.
And so I started reading the backs of products.
Yep.
And when I did that, I realized, wow, this is mucus causing. And when you say mucus causing, that's cancer causing, Brother Shaq.
Right.
I mean, and so, stop buying the margarine and bought olive oil,
Right.
or bought coconut oil, or bought something else that I could utilize instead of the margarine. Instead of buying something like rice-a-roni or a box, something that you can make those things from scratch, and it tastes even better when you add your own fresh ingredients like onions and garlic and green onions and peppers and these kind of
Right.
things. And so it's just the process and starting to think, what are you bringing to the table for your children to eat? Because whatever you're bringing to the table for your children to eat, your children will bring for your grandchildren to eat.
That's right.
Unless they learn better, and it's okay. And it's okay. We're not saying shame on you. We're
No.
saying just make a turn it around. You have the ability to do that today. We talked about adding raw foods
Yes.
into your diet. Not about saying you can't have such and such. It's about adding it into your diet. Raw fruits, raw vegetables every day in your diet can make a difference. Where you start feeling how good you feel when you eat those things, and stop eating the stuff that makes us feel sick.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the, like you mentioned, the food desert, and the general deprivation of
Nutrients,
nutrients.
vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, enzymes, the kind of things that are in raw things.
Right.
You know,
That you can
apples
only
and
essentially get there.
pears and oranges and plums and tomatoes and lettuce and spinach and watermelon.
Mhm.
Shout out to Brother Shaq for the watermelon juice. Come
Right
on,
on.
brother.
I think too, when we're looking at what's being brought to the table, who's at the table, I think it's important to also look at what's missing from the table. Like
Yes.
what isn't there, and the fact that a great many of our people aren't doing what you suggested. That's not part of how we're taught. Collectively, like we're not taught in schools to read the labels.
Yeah.
I learned about reading labels, in my early 20s, and I learned, So it took me that long to learn about that. Then I learned that if I'm eating something that's got a label, I probably shouldn't be eating it.
Uh-oh.
And because real food doesn't have a label, because the labels don't come out of the ground. But then I realized if I'm going to eat something with a label, I need to know the definition and the origin, the understanding of every single ingredient in that stuff. And that if I don't, it's not me loving myself putting it in my body, because at that point I don't even know what I'm doing. And why would I consciously and deliberately put something into my body that I didn't know what it was, which means I can't predict what the results are, and I certainly don't know what the benefit is going to be. That's something that I'm doing to myself. That's not an act of self-love. So it took a while to get to that particular process, which is a very, very different from saying, lack, and what I don't have, or what I don't eat or can't eat, or what have you. So I know we struggle. We struggle a lot with that, Mama Fire.
We are asking people to call in WBOK 1230 AM at 504-260-9265. Call the Solution Hotline at 504-260-9265.
What are you bringing to the table? And just like that, we got a call on the table. Caller, thank you for holding. What's happening?
Yes, sir. I would like to at least indicate that the body should be looked at as a living organism.
Definitely.
And as such, we should go through the process that is considered scripture, which is eating fruits and vegetables, or vegetation, nuts, and only eating animals that eat fruit and vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
And that process is a healthy process with water. However, there is another side effect outside of the chemicals that's in the food. It is the process that the pharmaceutical companies is putting in the medication that is creating a lot of dialysis clinic jumping up, because the kidney and liver filters, and most of the medication have side effects, and it is cumulative when you're taking more than one medicine that is being filtered by the
That's
kidney,
right.
and next thing you know, you got a lot of people walking around here going to dialysis clinics and things, and we need to get credence to that, because a lot of that is happening to our people as African Americans. I'm 78 years of age, and I swear to God, I did not see dialysis places like I see now when I was young.
Of
Yeah,
course
they
not.
popping up
The
everywhere.
difference in the medicine right now, from what my understanding is, when I was coming up, we went to a doctor to get cured. You found out what was wrong, they gave you medicine, and you dealt with diet and things to cure it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you go to a doctor, you go to be treated.
Correct.
The pharmaceutical company treats them to give you a pill, diagnose you and give you a pill.
That's right.
It does not take and reverse the process by going towards your dietary habits that create the illness in the first place.
That's right.
And I thank you all for giving me an opportunity to at least talk as an old man to hopefully some people that can understand me. Thank you, sir.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear brother. Thank you for adding beautifully to the conversation, and thank you for bringing that to the table. Everything is on the table right now. Proverbial table, and the dialysis clinics, as you're speaking of, are only in poor communities, and they are in poor communities all over America. And of course, you were right in terms of here in New Orleans. The last maybe 10 or so years, there's been major these dialysis clinics all over the place, and so we know that definitely is related to the pharmaceutical industry and the food industry. These are both feet of oppression on poor black people, and this also is known. There was a doctor saying something about in terms of cures, like you were talking about cures. If you offer a cure, you lose a customer. So they're not in the business of curing anything. There's no real money in curing. Their residual income comes in the form of treatments, and again, codependency to these particular drugs. We think the drugs, the quote unquote illicit or illegal drugs, are the drugs, but they're more pharmaceutical, legal drugs that are out there doing our people more harm than anything. And in both cases, we're still spending, a tremendous amount of money trying to feel better momentarily. I think, the brother mentioned some, in terms of eating scripturally. I know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with How to Eat to Live came out so long ago. In that there's always been the thought about food being your medicine and medicine being your food. But that isn't what popular culture is, because there again, that doesn't generate a lot of money. There's so much money to be made in fast food, in food-like products, artificial food, and they're highly addictive, deliberately so. Those are some of those chemicals that are in there that some of us can't pronounce, and most of us don't know what they are or what their effects are. But again, the addiction part of it, it does many things. Most of all, it extracts money from your pocket and other resources. Yeah. It affects your well-being. It affects your behavior. It does make you sick. And for everything that I just named, somebody outside of your community is making money.
Yeah, they benefit. And I thank the brother for calling in too. I think the fact that there's more dialysis clinics than there are places for fresh food.
Yes.
That's a problem. Right. And how does that come about?
Right.
Our people are not providing centers and places in our own communities that they are being placed there. Correct. Because of the quote unquote need. Mm-hmm. But if there's a need,
manufactures the need.
Exactly, manufactures the need. And then there's, I noticed too about soy causing mucus, because there was a time where I did eat soy products. Mm-hmm. I was leaving meat behind, and so was utilizing soy milk, soy butter, soy, tofu and patties and these kind of things. Yep. as a bridge to being vegan. And you don't realize how detrimental soy is to us. The GMO, soy is just GMO, period. Right. And then we talked about it at the panel discussion. They were talking about what our children eat at the schools are the same thing that our people eat at prison. Correct. In prison, which is company. Soy is nothing but soy. Mm-hmm. And then soy has issues that have hormonal issues when you eat it. It's not just mucus, it's hormonal issues. And so we're talking about, gender issues, identity issues, all these things. It's hormonal a lot of the time. Right. And so it's important for us to eat real food, eat living, real source from the source foods
grow it yourself.
Come on. Yeah, we speaking about it, growing and stuff. It's not easy.
No.
We have a garden, and we it's difficult to keep up with it as being busy people.
Right.
But we are trying, and we definitely want to get better about growing what it is that we eat, so we can provide that for ourselves, but also in access for our community.
You can bring it to the table.
Bring it to the table.
And there are many folks in our community who are, again, Sankofa, they're going back to this. This isn't something that we haven't done before. We're going back. I think that, shout out to my brother Kenrick, he talked about the American scheme. It seems that our people are getting hipper to the game that's been run, and are now really wanting to blacksit Mamafai, and that blacksit is not a sweep.
That's right.
It's not a clean sweep, but it's these partial, daily
disconnects,
smaller disconnects, and realizing
divesting.
Yeah, I'm actually okay. Like I really can live without that. Yeah. And there again, there's somebody that's really waiting on you as well to do that. Like there's somebody who you influence, who you've got a tremendous amount of influence with, that needs to see this happen.
Our children, especially.
And our children, because our great grandchildren are on the way, and so there's something, we're making decisions today for people that will affect people who haven't been born yet. That's a tremendous amount of power, Malafai. I don't think we should squander that or play with it.
Yeah, it's our being able to identify that as power and as a resource.
Right.
And that's what's part of it. So, again, we're going to call out for first-time callers. Let's invite new voices into the conversation. Join our conversation by calling 504-260-9265 WBOK, the solution line. 504-260-9265.
In Facebook Live family, we are certainly not neglecting you. We just don't have a source to connect to the live feed right now, but we'll respond later on this evening. And we thank you for joining us, and we thank you for inviting other people to see the show. As you can tell, I think it's in at least 2 parts right now because we had some technical difficulties where it went down.
And powerful shows, though,
Powerful
Brother Shay.
shows always do that. It's been the history for us here. This True Love Movement for the last 5 years on WBOK. That's half a decade. We've seen a few shows
Wow.
come and go in that time. Very proud of that. And it's so good to be back on the air and
Feels
in a
great.
new time slot and with a time period that
We got
can,
an extra hour, and it feels
that
good.
we can do, some
Yeah.
stuff with. So I would like to spend, before we do get out of here, I mean, we've done a whole lot with this table and there's still more to do, but I would like to put something else on the table, and that's for Manifest number 10.
Yes.
I'd like to, for our listeners and our viewers and our first time callers and folk who may not be as familiar with True Love Movement, to learn a little bit about what Manifest number 10, because again, this has been happening. There's so many things happening in New Orleans, and it's tribal. There's an Iron Tribe, and if you're not in the tribe, you may not know, but that don't mean you can't be. That don't mean you can't come see. So tell us about what Manifest 10, Mama Fire. Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I also want you to get ready too and talk about what you're bringing to the table at Will Manifest as well, and then who you would like to come in into that space.
Definitely.
So this is our 10th Will Manifest, and I'm super duper proud of it. I'm proud of how Will Manifest has evolved over the years. I'm proud about how many people participate in Will Manifest. That it's not just True Love Movement doing this festival.
Right.
It's about connections.
Good
It's about
organized.
networking. It's about learning and teaching, and it's about celebrating Black women.
That's right.
And that being okay, that being a beautiful thing to do. I think when Will Manifest first started, people were thinking it was only for Black women. Like,
Right.
oh, this is a festival and it's only for women, so brothers, y'all can't come. And we never said that. We just said it's a celebration of Black women. That means everybody should be there.
That's right.
Everyone should be there and celebrate. Bring your mama, bring your, children, bring your husband, bring your boys, bring your, let's do this. And I really love what we've offered to the New Orleans community together. And it's just about reaching out and galvanizing our people that want to be a part of it and offering this as free community workshops.
That's right.
That's a part of it. This time it's a weekend of events.
That's
So
right.
we're having from Friday, May 24th, Friday, May 24th, Saturday, May 25th, and Sunday, May 26th.
3 days.
For 3 days. So Friday is the Runaway Girl, the stage play.
Now,
Runaway
y'all
Girl,
got to
the
see
stage
that
play.
if y'all missed it
Directed
the
by
last time.
Loretta Marie. It's getting better and better and better.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you definitely have to be there. It's at a really nice theater
That's right.
on Loyola's campus, and we're thankful for the love group of Loyola that sponsored this play
That's
this
right.
time. And then on Saturday, and that's what I want you to talk about, Brother Shaq, starting at 9 o'clock, you are facilitating the Resolving Rape Culture Workshop.
I am indeed. That has been a labor of love. Working on the book for the last just about 6 years now, and it's just about there. I hope to have it. I hope to have it in time, at bare minimum, at least one edition of it, because it's some very important work. You mentioned the table, and the table being, the Black woman, or those women politically designated as Black. It's taken so long to write the book, Mama Fire, because the book is heavy. It's heavy, I'm having to work through and work on so much of myself just in writing the book that I have to stop and I have to, step away from it for a day or two, or just some time, because it's so heavy. And I've read some excerpts to you. Would you
Yeah.
agree? Like, it's not,
It's
this-
heavy bars.
Yeah.
It's new understandings of old things. You are so masterfully putting it together to make a case and to prove rape
Right.
culture.
Right, and this isn't the rape culture that we have all been accustomed to or socialized into. This isn't that, and so it's a book, and it's also a workshop, and so we'll be doing the workshop on that Saturday. We got very limited seating on that because we're doing it for a small venue, deliberately. And so we're going to put the information out for folks who'd like to register for it. It's going to be about 7.5 to 8 hours, but there'll be lunch is included. But we're going to do some serious work that day, and this is really for everyone. It's for all of our people. This is for Black people. This is resolving rape culture, but this is for Black people, and we would love to, and there's quite a good bit of brothers already who are already interested in coming through Mama Five, but this is for good Black men, the so-called good Black men.
Come on, Brother Shay.
This is for good Black men. This is not for the brothers who are predatory and violating sisters, and this isn't like we're gonna fix those brothers. This isn't that. This is for the so-called good Black men.
And who don't realize that they may be violating women.
Quite possibly complicit in adding to the oppression of Black women, but we also know that the good Black men amongst us are the ones with the influence, the ones who are really able to shift things in a way. And so we would love to see our brothers there, and we definitely want our sisters in there too, because we've all been socialized the same way. This is not about fixing Black men. No one fixes Black men or Black boys. That's not what this is, Mama Fi. This is a matter of helping all of our people see a lot clearly those things that have been invisible to us, and the damage, and the ways in which we've been complicit in it, to really turn the corner, Mama Fi, and bring about, usher us into Afrofuturism with the Black woman restored in a way that she's never been in America.
Yes, it's very, very powerful, serious work.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for offering that for Womanifest and last year's Womanifest 2018. Y'all did a little teaser of it, and it was well received.
Yeah.
I mean, paradigms were being shifted in just 90 minutes.
Well attended too.
Yeah, we're gonna reach out to those who experienced that and see if they want to be a part of the whole workshop this time. But I'm excited about that being offered. I like that it's for a diverse group of people, but in specific, quote unquote, those brothers that are good Black men, quote unquote,
That's right.
And then at that same time, simultaneously, there'll be the Birth Story Project by Sister Midwife Productions.
Right.
She does it once a month, and this time she's doing the Womanifest edition. And I really love that. I'm going to be speaking at that event. I'm going to be also in the...
You'll be co-facilitating with me, right?
I'm going to be co-facilitating with Brother Shaq. I'm going to be speaking at the Birth Story, but good thing it's all in one place.
That's right.
And then that night, which I'm very, very excited about, we will be having our hip-hop concert. And listen, Womanifest started as a hip-hop concert, Brother Shay. I mean, it started as a concert, And so this is bringing back Womanifest in that aspect, because it was always well-attended and really good vibration. So we're bringing that on Saturday night. And so that is definitely something you want to do with your boo, or you want to bring your girls, and you want to take where there'll be vendors and there'll be food and drinks, and we're going to just really have a good time on Saturday night on May 25th. Then Sunday, May 26th, we're going to have our Womanifest Festival in True Womanifest form. And there's a surprise. We're going to be shooting one of my videos, Walking Your Work.
Right on.
We're going to be shooting that with Sea Freedom Photography early that day on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. And so I'm calling out for my sisters to join me for that Walking Your Worth video. You dress in your most powerful gear, whatever it is you need to wear to feel that way. Bring your children, bring your man. Come on, we're gonna come out and we're gonna do this video
right on, Mama.
Together. So yeah, we have performances free community workshops. And over time, within the next couple of Thursdays, we'll bring some of our sisters in that will be doing workshops for us.
Good.
And vending and performing and that kind of thing.
We need
so
to
that
get
people can
Loretta
get a good
here too,
understanding.
because
Yeah.
last time she missed, I think Joy came, but Loretta.
Yeah, Loretta to come.
She
She's the
missed.
director of Runaway Girl,
That's
the
right.
stage play. So, y'all, this is gonna be a good weekend, and we can do that for each other. Like everybody's gearing up for Jazz Fest, but Jazz Fest is a machine.
Correct.
At this point, Jazz Fest is a machine. And actually, last week, the caller called in and said Black people started Jazz Fest, and
Right.
now there are no Black people
There
who
ain't
are
no, there
benefiting
ain't no jazz and heritage.
at the table, Jazz Fest. So that's what Manifest is ours.
That's right.
We do for stuff. It will never become anything like that. It will always be ours because we protect it.
Right.
On purpose, we provide it. And this is a total do for self. We will have so many vendors. You can come out and get clothes. You can come get
Whatever you
jewelry.
need.
You can come get food. You can come get crafts. Whatever you need to come get.
With
It'll
pride.
it'll all be there, and it'll be by our people for our people.
That's right.
Well, Manifest.
Well, Manifest 10 family.
10.
So proud of that. Well, Manifest has really become an institution in and of itself.
Yes, it
Mama
has.
Fi, and brilliant, just brilliant, and very forward thinking and doing something even at a time when people were still like, at least locally here in the city, not so passionate about, uplifting, Black women beyond being entertained by them.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
we like Black women as long as they're silent. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, brother.
We like Black women when they're nice to look at and they don't say nothing or demand much from us. But for you to really showcase, Black women who were mamas and lift up the fact that they're mamas, that they brought life into this world, and that they're entrepreneurs, so they're doing for self-determination, and how how all of our people get to marvel at the multiple facets of the Black woman, of the table, as we opened up with our most precious resource here in America historically, and I'm talking about not just for Black people, but for all people, because all people have taken and benefited from, those women who are now politically designated as Black. All people have. This America wouldn't be America without the sacrifice of those women politically designated as Black. It just wouldn't be, because what's always offered at the table. There's always a seat at the table. There's always something good for us at the table. We're being considered at the table. And the table, we don't bring much to it. Like the question, today's topic was, what do you bring to the table? We can get all of that from the table without bringing nothing. And we know that that's not equitable, that's not right, and it's definitely not sustainable, because it would seem that those women who are politically designated as Black, Mama Fire, are getting tired.
Yes, definitely, Brother Shaq.
They're getting
We're seeing
tired.
Degradation happening here just because we haven't learned how to love and support ourselves.
Right.
And that's the work that True Love Movement does. That's the work that we do. That's the work that I personally do. That's the mission that I'm on.
Right on.
Yeah,
So, like True Love Movement on Facebook, you can catch this broadcast and previous shows. This one is in 2 parts. If you missed, it's 2 hours, so if you missed parts of it, you can go back and check it out. It'll be on the True Love Movement Hour YouTube channel, along with a great many other videos over the years, and workshops
Can we
and
put 'em together?
lectures, and we can do anything.
yeah, let's do it. Put them together on YouTube.
And follow True Love Movement on Instagram, Twitter at TLMHR, and of course like us on Facebook, family. And check us out at www.truelovemovement.com and take a look around the website. Mama Fire does a wonderful job with that. She does that. We're all in-house.
I do my best, baby.
We're all in-house and homegrown. And stay on the lookout for important updates about What Manifest.
Yep. And if you want to know more about What Manifest, please go to www.truelovemovement.com. /Womanifest.
That's right.
And it's spelled WOMANIFEST.
That's right.
Black women manifesting their dreams.
Right on, Mama Five. Well, you are, in fact, a dream come true.
No.
And we are grateful for you. And I would like to thank all of our listeners, our viewers, folks on the way home, picking up the children, getting off from work, in the commute, in traffic, wherever you are, who took the time out to roll with us. It's good to be back, and we know you have many choices. Many things are happening here in New Orleans, so we're honored that you've taken this ride with us. And so, without further ado, I'm Brother Shaq
And Mama Fire.
for True Love Movement Tuesday. Shout out to DC Paul over there.
We see you, brother. Thank
Holding it
you.
We're out of here, family. Wholeness. All right, Facebook Live.
Filthy Phil.
You there?
Are they?
Yeah.
All right. Thank y'all.
We'll manifest 10.
We'll manifest 10.
Stay
Be
tuned.
there, be a part of it. We need you.
Right on, family. Wholeness.
I just want to thank you and welcome you for coming. My name is Larita Marie, and I'm the director of tonight's play.
I am Sunny Patterson and just got out of Runaway Girl, the stage play, supporting my dear sister Ayana. I'm so super proud. I can't say that enough. Just for the vulnerability, what comes with taking things from being a performer to a prayer former.
Hi, I'm Chandrika, Runaway Girl, the stage play. It was so much like the book. I loved it. I enjoyed the book as well as the play. It was a great show. I love you, Ayana. Thank you.
I bought the actual book that night, and I started reading it that night, and I tell you, I did not put it down until I finished reading it. Like, man, the next time I see this sister, I'm gonna bow down in reverence to her. It's a book that I believe that every male should read, and I'm talking about regardless of your color. Because what that book did for me is that it helped to add to my continued growth in the respect of the woman. And I can't wait to see this play